My name is Jason Eder, and I will be leading a good portion of this, but probably the person that you are more interested in is our technical rock star, Craig Foote, who is also on the line, will be joining me during the demonstration portion of the webinar. Um, and of course, in our silent but much appreciated support, we have Gordon Short, Director of Marketing and Business Development from Fujitsu Run My Process. And I just want to go over our agenda. Before, as you can see here, just to recap the idea of the reason why we're here is, the whole goal of this conversation is to simplify, track, and control your HR operations from an anytime, anywhere, any device environment. So the idea is to simplify that HR experience. We can track your recruitment process from start to finish, convert a candidate file or files into employment contracts in one click, access employee information anywhere, anytime from any devices we were discussing. I'm going to start with just describing a little bit about our company, LTech, and also Fujitsu Run My Process. Then I'll go through some use cases and some of the pain points that we've identified from previous customers. Then actually go into a demonstration to show you what a workflow looks like using Run My Process and also LTech's abilities. And then we'll open it up for some questions. Okay, great. So a little bit about who is LTech. We were founded, when we were founded, our goal was to provide enterprises with the best-of-breed technology solutions. Since then, we've evolved into a leading cloud service consultant. As an early Google Enterprise partner, we have helped hundreds of customers benefit from Google Apps and the Google Search appliance. Additionally, we've expanded our technologies into Amazon Web Services, and we use other applications and different vendors as well. Our goal is to be a unified, unique boutique shop, if you will, offering all cloud solutions. We think cloud first, and we want to make sure that all of our customers can have any type of accessibility into cloud technology, which is exactly why we're talking about Fujitsu Run My Process today. Some of our key features are pre-deployment planning, discovery, technical setups, configuration, migration from on-premise infrastructures to cloud technologies. We offer training, a managed service practice, change management, communication, and of course, post-production support. So let me talk a little bit about Fujitsu Run My Process. Fujitsu alone is among the world's top 5 providers of servers. Fortune has named Fujitsu as one of the world's most admired companies in 2013. The Fujitsu Group holds about 97,000 patents worldwide. And from just my working with Gordon and their team, I've learned that they really believe that cloud computing is leading to increasing opportunities for organizations to radically improve their business models through the integration and leverage of specialized services from partners. Since LTech started working with Fujitsu, we have learned of their vision, which businesses become composite businesses. That is, that businesses will be composed from services that exist both inside and outside the bounds of any one organization. Naturally, cloud computing and the services we're discussing today through Fujitsu Run My Process fit perfectly with this strategic vision. Keeping the composite business model in mind, though, let's discuss the deep integration of application connectors Fujitsu Run My Process offers. From the largest names to even customized applications through professional services offered by LTech, the potential options to optimize your organization's workflows are endless. Underneath this is the ability to record, analyze, and obtain critical metrics that relate to these processes and present them in a device-agnostic platform. So as you can see here, in 2012 alone, Fujitsu Run My Process has experienced a 106% growth rate and now serves over 18,000 users in 44 countries. 300,000 applications are running monthly, with well over 2 million integration points active. Okay, so let's talk about the problem. It used to be that every form of communication required a pair of shoes and a handshake. With virtualization becoming the norm, those days are far gone, and the expectation of a workload has shifted dramatically. Many of you have already adopted cloud technologies to support your email, calendar, communication, and document storage. But what about those applications on SharePoint, general workflows, Lotus Notes applications, and other processes? How often do you walk into an office waiting room and are handed a clipboard and pen? This is an invitation for error, which will lead to delays, unnecessary phone calls, and valuable time from your resources. Now, take a step back and ask yourself how many processes in your organization still requires a pen. Okay, so we have a poll question here. It's going to pop up and it will be pretty great for you to access it. I'll wait for the voting to go. So the question is, do you have a need to replace paper-based processes with something more efficient? So simply yes or no. 100% said yes. Okay, well, that's great. Thank you, audience, for being so helpful with this part in this portion of the webinar. All right, so great. That's perfect. 100%. That is great. So exactly here, this image right here, this gentleman on his phone, access anywhere. Right? We are now in a world where answers are at our fingertips, literally. Social media and the smartphone has changed the way we access technology. 98% of Americans who own a mobile device, I'm sorry, 98% of Americans own a mobile device. 40% of those are smartphones. 95% of Americans who use cloud services in their consumer lives. And then also this is the idea here is that people are reaching into their pockets to get answers, right? To communicate with businesses. They are, or maybe they're sharing an image with their family. They took a picture and wanted to send a picture from, they're in Michigan traveling and they want to send a picture to the grandparents perhaps in Georgia or Florida. And that kind of accessibility is right there at our fingertips. Why don't we have that same expectation, that demand for information at our fingertips at the workplace? Okay, so let's go to automation here. In particular, let's discuss the business pains that HR professionals have around workflow and automation. Handling HR operations by paper and email, right? Recruiting, expense applications and approvals. They cause inefficiency and errors as organizations grow larger. During the HR seasonal events such as recruiting and closing month, this is inefficiency that causes significant negative impact to various business divisions. Most of the HR processes are closely related to documentation work, such as creating contracts and archiving receipts. In order to automate these processes, HR workflow has to be integrated with other documentation systems. There's a lack of mobility, which is time consuming. If employees can only get access to an HR system from their office, access from anywhere at any device is required. So that plays perfectly into that image we just saw of the gentleman on his phone, right? Why can't we initiate or share or distribute um, information easily to the right people? Why do we have to go from application to application or from one site to another or submit a form that only starts the process? Why can't the entire workflow be baked into a solution? Well, that's exactly what Fujitsu Run My Process offers. So let's talk about some use cases a little bit more specifically here. Okay. Before we get into the actual demo, though, I do want to, I want to continue to set this tone here and put some scenarios in your ear. I hope that if to get you thinking about your organization, your processes, your needs that may not have surfaced simply because you've adapted to what you already have. We work with multiple organizations, whether we're, implementing a new cloud solution for their mail or calendaring system, or perhaps we're integrating their infrastructure. There's a lot of wants to just simply replicate what you already have in-house. Well, we prefer to say, let's take a step back and really assess and understand what it is that you want, so that we can provide a more enhanced, better solution in front of you to make it, faster, more efficient, and collaboration is the first thought in mind. Okay. So here's another poll question. We'll jump into those use cases and we'll have another poll question here. So does your HR department utilize web applications and video conferencing for interviews? Interesting. So we have a half and half. So a lot of organizations do use video conferencing and web applications, and another half of you do not. So that's very interesting. I think that does play well into this conversation here. For those of you that answered no, I really recommend that you consider using video conferencing for interviews, especially with the idea of travel in mind. And if you want to find out whether or not this candidate makes sense to you, ease of use, you could probably have 5 to 10 interviews in the period of what one interview would take because of that travel and scheduling in a conference room or an office, things of that nature. Things to think about. Okay, great. So onboarding, right? This is a big one. Hiring people is no simple task. Just to search and scrub through the hundreds, if not thousands, of applicants is one thing. And then once you do hire new members, onboarding itself is an entirely different animal. There are forms to be filled out, reports to be sent, signatures to be stored, and training material to be distributed. Right? The idea with Fujitsu Run My Process is we want to simplify your HR experience. We want to track your recruitment process from start to finish, convert your candidate files into employment contracts in one click, and then access employee information anywhere, anytime from one device. The idea of sitting in that waiting room instead of getting handed a clipboard is get an iPad, get a device that you have on site that already has the form pre-baked in. Something along the lines of this, right? So you'd be actually in your iPad, you'd be going through, and you're able to access the information by just simply clicking on it, and you start typing in your name, right? That would be ideal. That is the vision, right? Hand this device to them. The second they click on it, it goes right to the managers, the different people in the organization. That's the vision that we want to include here, right? So then training. Each organization has specific needs to educate new and pre-existing employees. When new technologies, processes, and knowledge needs to be taught, it's typically costly, time-consuming, and challenging to organize all parties into a training room and flip on the projector. With Fujitsu Run My Process and Deltek, we could customize a training program and supply metrics to inform your leaders when your staff is, and even provide insight to unforeseen challenges through reporting. So creating a form, a educational suite that will allow people to not only participate in the learning, but actually from a management standpoint, be able to monitor and see who has taken the course, where are they in the course, what were the percentage correct, percentage wrong, why was everyone having such a hard time with this particular section, maybe we need deeper training for that. All those things are easily obtainable and trackable and measurable through Fujitsu Run My Process and with LTech support. Policy validation. How many times have you been slowed down because you're waiting for an approval that sits on a dusty pile, right? I mean, how many times has your department lost or misplaced a required document? Have you ever found out a leading team member from a competing organization originally applied to your organization but was incorrectly categorized? Have you ever received a phone call that someone's health insurance plan or payroll wasn't completed when the payment or plan was supposed to kick in today? The idea is we want to tailor your process to the specific needs of your business. We want to monitor, select, organize by department, employee, or global metrics. We want to integrate complex logistic chains and enable collaboration between employees or even suppliers and customers. Okay? So those are some use cases that really set the tone. And now what we're going to do is we're going to take a dive into the actual application. I gave you a glimpse of it on my iPad, but I want to show you what it looks like in a web environment, okay? So here we are. I wanted to first set it up here. I have Chrome, I have Firefox, and I have Safari. As you can see, this is an entry portal, okay? So this looks a little crazy right now because I have 3 screens, but I just wanted to show you that regardless of the browser that you have of choice, you're going to have the same experience. It's not going to change because you're somewhere else. And to really drive that message home, this is me on my iPad too. Okay, I'm able to flip through, and just to show that this is live, here I am in my iPad, and it works just the same. So if I'm an executive and I want to have an answer and I want to access a file, access a form, etc., or we're going back to that onboarding scenario where people are sitting in a waiting room, I can hand them this device and they can access this information. So just for the sake of making it a little easier to view, let me just move this over here. I'll grab this. I'm going to expand it to just make it a little bit clear. Okay? So this is the home page, right? Now take into consideration right here that it says hello. It's connected as me. My name is Jason Etter, as you know. This is my email address. This is my contact information. This suite of applications right here is geared towards my credentials. So because I have logged in as myself, the system recognizes that and provides the applications that I have access to. Whereas if Craig was to log in, since he is a super administrator, he probably has more available to him. If Gordon was to log in, from his standpoint, he might have a global understanding, maybe a reporting mechanism that's down here that would allow him to have access to see all the processes, depending on the different levels. But my point is based upon your user credentials, you're able to create a portal that is completely individualized and customized for the person. So for today, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to jump into this right here, which is an HR termination request. Okay, so I'm going to click on that. So just to reiterate what I did, I just simply clicked on this icon right here, and it's now taking me to this termination request. Automatically, it shows me all the outstanding applications that are where they are in the process. I personally appreciate something as simple as this: my requests. What this is doing is showing me every one of the requests that I've put together and where they stand. As I can see, Kirk Douglas, Toby Maguire, and Humphrey Bogart have been completed. So that's great. Whereas Steve Jobs, he's still submitted. So that means that there's something left in the process. And any one of these, for example, I want to look at the Steve Jobs one, I click on it, it automatically takes me to the form in the current state where it is. Now take a look at this right here. This is just a nice little graphic here that, again, everything here is customizable just for how your workflow would work. This green is indicating which part of the process we're in, so the Director of Operations needs to approve this termination application. As you can see over here, the originator, it's grayed out. So that means that this process has already been completed, and now we're on to the next one. And then over here in the blue, it is not completed. So take that into consideration as I go back and start a new termination request, okay? Before I do that, though, please bear in mind that I'm able to print, export. I can get filters. If I want to just, if I have a laundry list, maybe I knew I was looking for Steve, I just start typing that in, and automatically it populates the name for me. I'm able to do that as well. Okay, and again, all this type of stuff is completely customizable, and I can get metrics too, which is really nice. And I'll show you that after I go through the termination request process. So now I'm going to go to a new termination request. So as you can see, it's loading right here, and it's different than it was with the Steve Jobs example. Is now we're back to originator. So these two pieces of the puzzle have not been finished yet, and it's all green here because this is a brand new beginning here. Okay. So next, what we're going to do is just highlight, again, because it's based off of my user credentials, it automatically fills in all that redundant data. The whole idea is to eliminate the any invitation for error, right? We do not want error. So that's exactly why we have this stuff pre-configured. Everything was based off of my credentials, as it automatically throws in my name, my personnel number, where I'm located, my phone number, my position, which is the director of firing people, my email address, etc. And then other parts of the process too are generated based off of where we are in the form itself. And then here is where I would enter it. So let's say I enter Clark, and we'll do Kent, and the personnel number is Super H345, and the last day of work, it automatically has a calendar populate. I think Clark is stopping around the 7th of February. Okay, great. And now, as you can see down here, I have drop downs. Now, bear in mind right here, it says reasons. So we're able to configure this that says, you know what, is this a termination? And it gives me different reasons for termination. Or is this a retirement? And automatically that changes right here too. Okay, so Clark is actually going to be retiring. So I'm going to choose this particular attribute right here. And then it's, a very important question. Do we need to replace him? Absolutely we do. You have to have Superman, right? We are not ready, though. We don't have enough information. So that information can go directly to the respective people. So once we have this filled out, you can have different parts of the process actually report to different departments and things of that nature, which we'll discuss a little bit more as well. And for a comment here, we're going to say too much phone booth use. Okay, so put into consideration that my role as the director of firing people is to submit these people that need to go, right? And then once I click on submit, it's going to go to the HR director who will approve or ask me to update. Okay, so I'm going to say too much phone book use, and I can either save it, and if I do save it, I can edit it at any time, but I'm going to submit it at this point right now. Now, when I click submit, this little request registered pops up, and it lets me know that it has been submitted. Okay, so what now I'm going to do is I'm going to go into my email. Since now I'm taking off I'm Jason Etter, director of firing people, and now I'm taking on the role of the HR director. Okay, again, in a normal workflow, this would be something handled by multiple people, but for the sake of the demonstration, it's easier for me to stay on the screen and just show you how this works. So I received this right here. This is a termination form, and it says, hey, this has been happening. You should take a look for proper action. So I'm going to click here, and it'll take me directly to the form. And as I described before, it's going to show me we're now in the HR operations piece of it. Okay, all the information is there. This is really just an opportunity for the HR director to say yes or no, or maybe we need more information. For example, I would like to have a file to understand a little bit more about why this action is being requested. I'm going to say need more information, perhaps a photo. Okay. And I'm going to send it back to the organizer. Okay, so I'm going to take my HR director hat off, and I'm going to go back into my email here, and what you'll see in just a moment is that message. Now, while that's traveling back to me, what you're going to see here is in here the history. Let me just go here. I wanted to show this to you really quickly. My current requests. I'm going to take the filter out, and what you'll see, there's Clark Kent, right? It actually records everything. So as you can see here, it's tracking. It's saying it's going back to the originator, which is great. So now I'm clicking here, and there it is. Okay, and then it says, hey, you know what? There's more information needed, so you have to click here to update the request. Okay, not a problem. I'll be happy to do that. So now I'm going to go back to this form, and I'm going to say, oh, I see. And it's keeping a recorded it's keeping a timestamp recording of everything that's happening. Now, in a real case situation, you'd see the other usernames that are being applied here. Okay, so it says right here, need more information, perhaps a photo. So, okay, not a problem. I'll attach a photo. Let's go to my desktop, where I keep my photographs. And as we can see right here, let's see, that's it. Yep, there's Superman. Too much telephone use. So, okay, we're going to use that instead. And I'm going to resubmit to HR. Okay, which is great. So now what will happen is that request will go back to the HR department, and I'll be able to approve it or deny it. Okay, so as you can see here, I'm going to refresh this page, and you'll see automatically that we have Clark Kent has now submitted. So before it said back to originator, but now it's submitted. Now it's just in the hands of the HR director to approve or deny it. Okay, there we are. Perfect. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab this, and I'm going to take another look at this request, and I'll see where we stand. Okay, so everything's here, right. We have all this transaction that was going on and recorded to this particular event. Perfect. I do see the image that I requested. I'm going to approve it. Okay, and so from there, the person that originated is going to receive a message saying, hey, this has been approved. If I go back to the actual form here, it's going to be viewable here. As you can see, Clark Kent has been completed, which is great. And then even if I wanted to, you can even track it through something like a Google spreadsheet if you wanted to, right? So here it is, right here. This is the actual timestamp. It just happened, 2/7/14. It's marked complete, and we can track that. And so you're able to see it in any type of distribution level that you would like, and you'll be able to have that type of information to you. Okay, so that's part of it. Now let's talk a little bit more about some of the metrics that we can do too. So in the home page itself, we had the request, which we just showed you. Now we're going to go to the actual termination dashboard. Okay, so I'm going to click on it right here, and I can actually see, okay, we have number of requests that are outstanding. We have 3, and the number of completed, we have 14. So this is not bad. We have an 82.4% complete rate right now. We'd still have about 17.6% that is not completed, and I'd be able to see this. Now, what I like about this is, again, from a standpoint of maybe a director or an executive, if they were using this and they're in the boardroom and they say, hey, what's going on? I know we just started this new tracking system. All this stuff is completely accessible on their mobile device. Whether it be their Android device or their iOS device. Here we are. I'm in my iPad. I'm looking at this. I can click on the things just like I was on the computer, and I'm able to get that same type of information. There's sorting that you can add, all kinds of really engaging pieces to this information that's accessible to you. Okay, so that's the gist of this particular application. But I wanted to jump back into the presentation to talk a little bit more about what this means for you. I'm hoping that as you watch this demonstration, you got your thinking caps going, right? Oh, wow, what about this? What about that? How can I connect it to my calendar? Can I set up, can I have, instead of having to manually enter my user credentials, or I'm manually entering the person that's being terminated or retiring, could I have it pull from our Active Directory or LDAP? Yes, the answer is yes. There are thousands upon thousands and thousands of connectors that are out there, and even if they don't exist, with the help of LTech, we can create those connectors for you. And I wanted to discuss a little bit more about that. So let's kind of recap here, right? What we're talking about here is what would happen without having a workflow process like we just talked about, right? Here's this guy. How many sticky notes does it take to create a workflow, right? Without the adoption of Fujitsu Run My Process, there's a very good chance you'll lose money, fail to meet deadlines. Things like that happen all the time when you're waiting for paper to answer your question for you. There's errors and loss during each process done by manual work. There isn't really any visibility or traceability to the processes. It could cost a lot when you're trying to implement and configure BPM software on servers or develop connectors to integrate with other servers as well. We do find that 20% of HR applications got lost during the manual process by papers, Excel, and emails, whereas Fujitsu Run My Process's traceability to the workflow significantly removed this issue altogether. Fujitsu Run My Process has accelerated HR approval process from 4 weeks to 10 days on average. Think about that too. So in addition to everything we just showed you and started talking about, this system in the background is actually very simple to work with LTech, Fujitsu Run My Process, and even potentially yourself too in your IT department. Rather than putting together a very complex workflow, whether it's through SharePoint or maybe Lotus Notes, things of that nature, or some type of internal application suite that you're already using. Fujitsu Run My Process can virtually create the idea that if you or an exec are working with an executive and you can pen out that application, that workflow in your mind onto a piece of a napkin or something like that, the actual portal that is used to design this workflow can replicate that, creating a visual understanding of what this workflow and process should be to make it easier during the process to easily go in and edit and what have you. And so when a change request, like we were talking before, can go from 4 weeks to 10 days. I mean, that's incredible. Okay, so the idea here is, let's partner with LTech and Fujitsu Run My Process, and let's really see what the best next steps are. So I'm actually not the director of firing people. I'm the director of cloud operations. I'd love to talk with you a little bit more. If you have questions, please go to our website, ltech.com/runmyprocess. But more so, let's start asking some questions. I saw a couple questions come up while we were working, and let's see what we have so far. One question in particular that came to mind, just so you know, if you do have questions, you can simply go to webinar control panel. You'll see a little tab that says questions. Feel free to type away if you have a question, and we'll be able to answer it. Or I see some people were trying to raise their hand. If you just go down to the questions and type that in, you can also leave a comment too. We'll keep an idea, monitor both of those. One question that came through, Craig, actually, this one's really for you. the question is let's say you have a workflow or process that it's not as simple as the application we just showed, right? It may has a need to access multiple processes or workflows together. Um, can you elaborate on that? I'm not sure if I did a good job explaining that question.
Sure, absolutely. So the process that Jason showed us today was fairly sequential in the sense that, you know, somebody submitted a request, and then the approver either approved, rejected, or sent it back to the originator. However, there might be some circumstances where maybe you have to, you know, fire off multiple steps at the same time. So with Run My Process, you could actually, you know, maybe we wanted to send an email to somebody or have somebody fill out another section of the form at the same time as somebody else is filling out a form. We can run parallel processes to support that type of workflow. We could also share information between processes. So if let's say that, you know, we needed to make a change to the pricing of a product for whatever reason, you know, that might be a great approval step or a form to put into Run My Process. However, downstream, we might want to use that information set up in process A in process B for whatever reason. So we can share information between processes as well, or we could actually kick off, you know, a sub-process within process A as well. So everything is completely customizable. Really, the limit of the application is the imagination that we can draw, you know, with your requirements.
Sorry about that. I was on mute. We also had a question about the actual process that we showed today. Craig, how long did it take to build this demo application that we showcased?
Once we had specs for the application, this application right here is fairly basic. It took about 10 to 12 hours, I would say, you know, just to make sure that everything was tested, cleaned up, so on and so forth. So it is an application or an environment and a platform that you can develop applications with fairly rapidly.
Great. There's another question about, we talked a little bit about connectors, and people were asking, well, you know, does it connect to, I think the question was regarding, does it connect to Google Apps, or does it connect to Salesforce, or what if I use SAP? It's kind of a broad question, but, you know, would you be able to elaborate a little bit on the connectors?
Yeah, so Run My Process has really done much of the hard work for us in developing what we call connectors, and I know we touched on those during the demo. One of the points that Jason showed is actually writing, you know, the information to a Google spreadsheet. Well, instead of maybe using a Google spreadsheet, what if we wanted to write, you know, at the end of the process, you know, that information to SAP, another ERP system, or possibly another HR system? So we could absolutely do that using these connectors that are already built to support those type of requests. Maybe we want to kick off a process from within Salesforce and inject some of the information, you know, that's stored in Salesforce into that workflow. All these types of things, as far as reading or writing from other systems, are entirely possible. Like Jason said, there's thousands of connectors already pre-built for us. And if a connector isn't available, that's something that we could definitely work with any clients to develop.
Great. We actually had another great question. I'm going to actually, Craig, you can still see my screen, right?
Yes, I can.
So I'm going to showcase this right here. This is another portal, just like we had before, that shows a little bit more metrics that you can actually, you know, move around. You're able to get that type of information based upon, you know, where we stand of the. Actually, this is not the one I wanted. I wanted to get for.
Hey, Jason, we're still on the slide deck.
Oh, you are?
Yep.
Okay. Let's see here. If I can go back to. There we are. Are you able to see my screen now?
Unfortunately, it's still on the slide deck.
Ah, my apologies. Okay, so it seems like we're having a little bit of an issue. Let's see. How about now?
Same thing.
Same thing. Excellent. All right, good. I'll
Wasn't
try
meant to
one more
be.
time, and then we'll just keep talking. Any luck?
Yep, we're good
Oh,
now.
good. Okay, phew. So what I wanted to do here is I'm going to go into the purchase department. This is a different application, similar dashboard that we showed before. It shows a historical data here, which is going on, and I'm going to go into the this is a purchase requisition request. So it's a little unrelated to HR, but what we can do is see a little bit more information here. Actually, what I want to do is go to purchase department. Whereas the question was regarding what about those people that are not in your Active Directory? How do you connect to something like that? So this is a perfect example of how we would accomplish that. As you can see, this is a much longer process, right? It goes all the way from initial request all the way into invoice payment. Okay, these are all different steps that need to occur, and this will get grayed out, and then the blue guy just kind of continues on his little Smurf trial. So what we're going to do is we're going to keep going here, but right here is the question is selecting a supplier. So this is someone that's not directly related to their LDAP or customer list. And what I have here is I have all these different customers that we have built in here. So let's say that Jeff Bezos needs to be the one that is the supplier. I click on select supplier and it automatically fills in. I think that answers the question that we had here. So I wanted to just showcase that really easily rather than saying it. I wanted to actually have give you some visual understanding. We have another question here about they have about 50 people in their HR department. Is there a limit to how many people could use it if we wanted to automate a specific workflow that everyone currently touches with paper? No, absolutely, there is not a limit. And we have as shown earlier in the slide deck, we have enterprises that are in the thousands. We have companies that have anywhere to 10 people, right? So across the gamut, it is completely accessible, and there is no limit to how many people can access these applications.
Just to expand on that a little bit, we actually have a client that wanted to open this up to people outside of the organization. So we created what was called a public forum, which allowed partners, maybe customers, so on and so forth, to access a form, on a normal website. And the difference there is that they actually had to fill out a CAPTCHA, which is just sort of everybody's used them on the internet, just proving that we're actually a real person as opposed to a robot. So you can actually open up run my process forms to people outside of the organization, either by giving them a user, or if you wanted to open that up to maybe the general public. Obviously, you don't want to create a user for everybody that could possibly use a form in that scenario. So that's where public forums come into play.
Excellent. I think that's I don't see any more questions, that's okay. That gives people an extra 20 minutes of their time to sit back, maybe pour that 14th cup of coffee for the day, and we can move forward. Please, let me just go back to this slide one more time here. I encourage you to reach out to me. I'd love to get you connected with our team. So that's Jetter, Jetter, at ltech.com. Please feel free to reach out to me, and I'd be happy to get you directed to the right people. Part of what we like to offer too, which is a free customized demo. Okay, so if this seems like something that you're interested in, reach out to me and talk to me about a specific workflow or process that you're interested in taking part of. And what we'd like to do is set up a demonstration for you that's customized based off of your needs, what you're looking to accomplish, and see if it's something you'd like to move forward with. Be happy to do that for you. This is an exclusive offering. We typically do charge for this type of scenario here, so please do reach out to me. Take advantage of the free hours from our resources, and we'd be happy to accommodate you because you participated today. All right, well, it looks like we don't have any more questions. I greatly appreciate your time today. As we discussed, the partnership of LTech and Fujitsu Run My Process is something we're very proud of, and we look forward to working with your organizations and hopefully saving you a lot of time, a lot of financial burden, and getting things done more efficiently. So thank you so much. I hope everyone has a wonderful day and enjoy the extra 20 minutes, or I shall stop talking before it becomes only 15. Thanks, everyone.